Welcome to the Best Team Wins podcast with Adam Robinson. He's talking to today's industry leaders and entrepreneurs about the people side of their business.
Welcome to the Best Team Wins podcast, where we feature entrepreneurs and business leaders whose exceptional approach to the people side of their business has led to incredible results. My name is Adam Robinson. For the next 25 minutes, I'll be your host as we explore how to build your business through better hiring. Today on the program, we have a special episode featuring two of our superstars here from Hireology, Jeff Brandwein, one of our sales leaders, and Joe Arko, who is a sales professional extraordinaire on the floor. Pulled them off the sales floor today. Don't tell anyone on my board, and into the studio to talk about culture and growth. So I'm so excited to have you guys here. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys. So we are a couple of weeks away from the end of the year. And as you know, we've got plans to grow and do some big things next year. And I know what our listeners care a lot about is navigating that growth in terms of right people and preserving the culture. And so I want to get it both from the leader's perspective and from the team member perspective. Jeff, how do you've been here since employee 6 or 7.
5.5 years. Yeah.
Been here a long time. The whole time. Let's call it the whole time. Been here the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're 140 people now. We're adding 25 heads next year. Right out of the gate, we got 25 roles we got to fill. What is your approach to making sure you're able to do what you do with all these new faces?
I think it's a lot of what I think I've actually kind of learned from you in terms of the culture that we have. And I think it's getting everyone focused in on that end goal, which is obviously being a sales leader, is that, that quota or that number that you have to hit. But then importantly, like, what is the team vision, and what is, as a team, what do we believe and what do we value in, and getting everyone to buy into that. And so, like, those are the things that I do with the new people that I'm adding to my team, is trying to get them bought into those specific core values for our team and beliefs and visions and where we want to go as a team. And we center around that along with the quota. And if we can get everyone on the same page there, that's the most important thing for me.
So when I come in the morning and I see your team sitting Indians, I say crisscross applesauce now on the floor.
Yes.
Having a team meeting in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder, what's actually going on over there? Will you tell me what that's all about?
Yeah.
Please?
So we have a team trophy that actually this started about 2-3 years ago, where we give out a trophy to the reps who a rep who previously got it the month before gives it to their coworker as, the one who showed the team's core values over that month.
Okay. Core values like what?
So one of our core values would be day one attitude.
So this is team core value. You've
team
implemented different from company core value,
yes.
which, by the way, I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
So what we do is we don't believe in first place. So there's no such thing as a team member finishing in first place for the month. So basically, we have a second place medal that we give out, and we have a third place cape that says superhero in training. And so the idea of it is that if you're showing those core values and the beliefs that we live in throughout the month, then you'll get awarded that from somebody on the team. And so the trophy itself is basically it's actually funny, one of the reps on the team had a trophy that he stole from his high school that is a dance trophy for the Indiana State High School Association of Dancing or something, and he actually brought it into the office, and so now that's our trophy, which is actually configured with our old trophy that somebody broke down. And what's actually cool about that story is that the old trophy got taken down by somebody else, we don't know who, but instead of just getting rid of the trophy, we actually just built a better and bigger trophy. And
so
I think
our stolen trophy was replaced by a bigger, better stolen trophy.
Exactly, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Joe, what's it like to work for this guy?
To work for Jeff Brandwein, well, it's a bit culty. Sometimes you feel a little bit like you're in a cult, but one that's like really good for you. You know, like if there was a cult and it was all focused on performing at your best and eating well and coming in fired up and selling a lot of product, that's the cult that Jeff Brandwein
Sign me up for that cult.
It's pretty great.
Eat right, sell more.
That's about it. So it's you do at certain times you do kind of detach from the situation and laugh at yourself a little bit. You are sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor with a bunch of other grown human beings listening to Enya. By the way, that's something you may not have caught.
Wow.
Enya on repeat throughout the entire ceremony.
You're all in on this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's pretty well. It's well put together, and I think if Jeff does anything better than anything else he does, it's to build these rituals in, and so everything's circled around the core values. I mean, that's same way that you run the company is the way that Jeff runs his department. But again, you have the trophy that gets given, and then you add the medal in there and the cape in there, and you add these other daily and weekly things. And I find that Jeff is really good at building rituals in, whether it's on a daily cadence or on a monthly cadence or on a quarterly cadence, that make people feel like they're part of a bigger unit than themselves, that they're accountable to the other people in that unit to do their best and to get their job done day in and day out. And, you know, there is some tongue in cheek to it. You know, we know that we're sitting on the floor listening to Enya talking about how much we like one another's characteristics as human beings. It is a little silly at times, but, you know, doggone it, it gets us in and fired up and ready to work most days.
Remember back when you were new, what was going through your mind the first time you sat through one of Jeff's, let's call it a meeting experience?
Trophy ceremony.
Okay.
Trophy
ceremony. And, you know, for listeners, what I want them to understand is this is completely by design. And we're joking about this now, but this works. This really has worked for a long time for us. You came from a challenged sales environment the last time. I think you were selling medical waste disposal or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, under the gun all day, every day.
Okay. We're glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
What was it like walking into a trophy ceremony type selling environment? And what were you thinking? Like, what did I do here?
Well, you know, it couldn't have been any further removed from the world that I was coming to. We've got another guy on the floor with me who was selling copiers before this, and I think he was in a similar environment. Very, very tight control of everything that every salesperson is doing. And, you know, I can't even call to mind the first trophy ceremony particularly. It's just the way that the whole team is run. It's relaxed and it's fun, but because you have a number that you have to hit and you're constantly reminded of that number, we get emails about it. Jeff's doing his managerial job to make sure everybody knows where they're at to their quota and whether or not they're performing on it. Because it's so ubiquitous, because everybody knows what that is, we can almost forget about it. We almost on a daily basis can then drop back down and have fun with one another. We can sit and have these kind of funny moments or these, you know, jovial things. We're not talking about numbers at the trophy ceremony. First, the guy who hits his number, the guy who's at 160% of his number, doesn't even get rewarded at that ceremony. That's not what it's about. It's, hey, we have these things that we really value as an organization, and we trust you to perform to the things against which we're measuring you. But from there, if you don't like coming into work every day, then I'm not doing my job right as a manager. And I hate to speak for you, Jeff, but that's what it feels like. And to be in that environment is fantastic. You can enjoy it. You know what you've got to do, and you know that you don't have somebody, you know, breathing down the back of your neck to get you to make phone calls all day.
So, Jeff, I want to talk to you about what you say to potential new hires in your interview with them. Because what we talk a lot about on this podcast are tactics or techniques shared by other business owners or leaders on how to get the right person in the door. You're out there doing it every day. You're talking to people every week. What expectation do you try to set with them so that they don't walk in the door and go, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I definitely do when I'm interviewing or talking to a candidate is I actually try to I'm brutally honest with them about what the job is going to be. So I'm very, very upfront. In a way, it's almost like I'm trying to not sell or trying to tell them, hey, be careful because this is what you're getting into.
Give me the pitch. Let's hear it.
So I tell them how many phone calls you're going to make. I mean, you're going to have to be making, 30 to 50 phone calls. We're very metrics driven. So you're going to have to set 12 meetings, run 8. We have an accountability meeting. You're going to be putting your numbers up in front of the team. And if you don't want to be making cold calls every single day, because your job is not going to change. Like your job day to day doesn't really change, and Joe can attest to this. Like it is coming in, you're hitting the phones, you're calling the same people in and out every single day. So if you don't want to do that, this is not going to be the job for you. And I will say that authentically to a candidate when they're asking me questions about the job itself.
I'm the candidate here. I hear that and I say I'm willing to put the time in. Jeff, what happens next? So let's say I do a good job. What's my opportunity? How do you message that in a way that is not a potential false promise?
Yeah. So I think what I will tell people is that I always focus around like the 4 things. I always tell them like, look, the number one thing that sets apart all the great people here is their mindset. So if you have a great mindset, you come in, have your beginner's mindset, growth mindset, and really try to work hard. That's the most important thing. And then second, talk about attitude and grit is an important trait. And then talk about business acumen. So business acumen is really important, talking to owners every single day. And then 4 is just having a high EQ. You got it. You're talking to different types of people every single day. So what I'll tell them is like, the job's really hard, but here's the thing. You don't have to be a great salesperson. I don't really believe that's what it's about. It's doing those 4 things really, really well. You're going to be wildly successful here. And that's what the best reps in our company, since I've been here for so long, like I've seen, and like if I took any of our top reps, I would say those are the 4 traits they have. And I tell them is like, the thing is that I can help you and guide you to those 4 things, but you got to come in and want to do those 4 things. And if you think you can do those 4 things, you're going to be super successful here.
So Joe, from the candidate perspective, we don't have to talk about Hireology specifically, but what I want you to help give our listeners is the mindset of the job seeker or the person consuming this information. As you evaluated this organization and heard those kind of messages, how does that line up with what you, and even extrapolate that out to what you think others like you want or look for, and how can our listeners leverage that to be better at building trust and winning hearts and minds of people that might want to work for them?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. Granted, I've been here for a year and a half, so it's been a while since I went through that process, and then in the interim I'm talking to business owners all day about what candidates want to see, so that may influence my
some would call you an expert.
Some I don't know if all would quite yet. Might be a few months away from totally understanding everything that goes into the hiring process. But I mean, putting myself back into those shoes, coming in here, it's really the things that you wouldn't consider are what struck me the most. So it was the way that the sales floor looked, the way that I saw people interacting with their coworkers. I mean, most of what comes to mind from 2 Augusts ago are the things that did not transpire in conversation with the person that was interviewing me. It was, does this seem like a place that I want to work? Did I get along with the guy that was interviewing me? It was much less about the logistics of my conversation with Jeff and much more about how I felt about him being my boss. I met him. We talked for quite a while about what the job entails. Is this guy a smart guy? Do I think that he's going to be able to lead me to do more than I could if I were on my own? And then from there, all of the questions that I was asking myself were around, am I going to fit in here? Does this place mesh with my personality, or am I going to land in another position where I'm struggling to fit in and I feel uncomfortable when I come into work in the morning and I sit down at my desk and I put my blinders on because I've got 10,000 things to do, and at the end of the day, maybe I talk to somebody about golf for 5 minutes. Like, is this somewhere that I can come in and be happy 45, 50 hours a week, every single week, indefinitely, and am I going to enjoy working for this guy? And, I sat down with Jeff, I sat down with Max, our vice president of sales, and, couldn't have enjoyed the conversations that we had more. Those were two guys that I knew I wanted to work for. I loved the way that the sales floor looked, and I said, sign me up.
So what about the look of the sales floor? Could you describe to us in a way that would help our audience understand what that was for you? What can entrepreneurs do to set the floor so that it's a desirable place for someone who's pretty good at selling, wants to actually give them their time?
Sure, it was a delicate balance between people shooting the breeze, and I saw people up from their desks sitting at somebody else's desk having a conversation, may have been work related, maybe not. But at the same time, I saw a ton of people on the phone. And what that told me is nobody's going to crack a whip if you have an anecdote that you want to tell to the guy sitting next to you. But at the same time, this is a culture where everybody's got numbers to hit. Everybody knows exactly where they're at on the month, and they know what their activity needs to be in order to get there. And again, maybe I've got some glasses on from having been here for as long as I have, but that's what I value about the sales floor, speaking with hindsight, is there's some autonomy to have a good time at work, and everybody knows where they have to be at the end of the month, and nobody, you have everything that you need to get your job done, and there's nobody, beating you over the head with a 2x4 to try to get you there.
So Jeff, as a leader of people, philosophically, how are you approaching that job? What do you believe that you think is immutable truth as it relates to hiring and managing sales professionals or revenue generators?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like I went back to, it's like, you hear about, and I read about them all the time, like the greatest coaches to ever coach, and teachers and everything. It's just, they all had like a vision and a values that they wanted the team to work towards, but it's all about the amount of effort and working really, really hard. And whether you win or lose. And I think, to me, like what that means to different people and how you portray that to the team is you can do that in many different ways. For me, though, like I said, is the biggest thing is like the core values and the vision statement. And, during the interview process, I have some questions around some of the core values that I have, because, I want to see if it's something that's within line with what, this person's like. For example, like with my team, and Joe knows this, you got to have a ton of energy because you got to make a lot of phone calls. You got to come in here excited. So like one of the best questions I love to ask people is like, what are you most passionate about? And then I ask them, like, I really try to dive deeper into, once they tell me what that is, like, tell me more about that. Tell me why, like, how long have you been passionate about it? Things like that. Cause like, I want to know if somebody is truly a passionate person or passionate about something, and personally or professionally. I want to know that, because if that can tell me that person has a ton of energy, they're optimistic. You can see how optimistic they are about something, and that all relates to the core values. So like, if I was going to say, interviewing people, bringing people on, it's like you just want them to see if they're already kind of bought into those core values that you're already thinking. And are they just going to come in and just work hard? Because at the end of the day, like whether they win or lose, it really doesn't matter. It's all about how hard you work. And that's the kind of message that I try to get out of them and see if that's what they're looking for.
What then is one thing you want to do differently or improve upon to take your management game to the next level in 2018?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's though I do a good job from a team perspective of getting everyone on the same page, one of the things that I'm trying to work on is trying to guide more the individual reps to things that motivate them, because I think everyone can buy in. I mean, it's been 3 years. Everyone seems to buy into these core values that we have, which is amazing. But I also understand that they buy into that, but to take them to the next level, and then also me to help them and our team, each person though is driven by something else. And so I need to do or I want to do a better job of trying to guide them to little specific things that motivates them the most to try to get the best out of them. Because just because we have these core values and people buy into them doesn't mean that that's the only thing that motivates them every single day. And so I want to help try to position them to be better people and better salespeople. And in turn, I believe that will come back to me as a leader and help our team grow.
So I'm going to do this to you, Joe, right now. What's one thing Jeff can do differently that would make him a better leader?
Well, he's not my manager anymore,
so
cool.
I have man.
absolute autonomy to say whatever I think is appropriate. Well, so if Jeff does anything well, it's his energy. It's the passion that he brings into work every day. If I would give Jeff, looking him in the face right now, one piece of advice on how he could manage his reps more effectively, I think it would be to be a Pied Piper for that energy. He comes in, he's fired up, he's ready to go. He's usually screaming at the top of his lungs in his, Wednesday morning meeting with his team. Everybody in the company knows what's going on with his team and what they're doing. I would say, having left Jeff's team, I wish that I had taken more of that energy with me. And I don't mean that it had rubbed off on me and I left and I had this. I think if Jeff could do anything better, it would be to better explain why he has that much energy, to better to get to the reps that are working with him, the ideas that make him as excited as he is. Not just the energy itself, but the generation of that and why it makes him as excited as he is to get to work, so that then when they do go to a different team or they do go to a different company, it isn't just, hey, remember how fired up Jeff was? Let's try to be like that. It's more of an idea of, man, Jeff had all these fantastic ideas that went through his head every day, and if I can just have a couple of those at the beginning of my day here, then I can be a little bit as fired up as Jeff was coming into work.
Let's take it home then with more of that type of topic. What is the most impactful book you've read recently, and would you recommend it to our audience, Jeff?
What great book that I just read about leadership is Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull. He is the co-founder of Pixar, and the book, I mean, to me, I read a lot of books, and Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership, is probably number one in leadership books for me, and I put number two, I put Creativity Inc.
Okay, Joe?
I've got two answers, but it's the same title. So Mastery is the title of the book. Robert Greene wrote a compilation on it, and he talks about the lives of all these famous individuals and how they attained mastery in these different areas. It's Da Vinci and Tiger Woods and Mozart and how they became what they became. That's a absolutely fantastic read. But then there's also another book entitled Mastery, written by George Leonard, who was a practitioner of Aikido, I believe. And the whole point of his book is how to master something over the long term. Robert Greene's is kind of how to go from, not knowing anything to mastering something, and talking about the life cycles of those individuals. But Mastery by George Leonard, the theme is to love the plateau. And he talks about having, instead of practicing, he talks about having a practice. And when you have a practice and you're in a plateau, you're just going to work. I'm going in today and I'm going to concentrate on this thing. And if I don't get any better by the end of the day, that's okay, because I'm doing this to do it. And it's the process of working on things that is the rewarding part. And if you do that, then you're going to continually improve, but you're also not going to these peaks and troughs where you're really excited about your progress and then you're feeling bad because you're not on a hockey stick anymore. He just talks about love what you do every day and do it because you love it. And if you're constantly working towards getting better, you're going to hit plateaus, and you realize that that's just another phase in your development. I think there's some really good messages in there.
That's the final word. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been learning from Jeff Brandwein and Joe Arko, Hireologists, each extraordinary individuals. Thank you both for participating in this extra special episode of the Best Team Wins podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this week's show. This is the Best Team Wins podcast, where we're featuring entrepreneurs and business leaders whose exceptional approach to the people side of their business has led to incredible results. My name is Adam Robinson, author of the book, The Best Team Wins, which you can find online at www.thebestteamwins.com. Make sure to share this podcast with someone you love. We will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Best Team Wins podcast with Adam Robinson. You can find out more information about Adam and his book, The Best Team Wins, Building Your Business Through Predictive Hiring, at thebestteamwins.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.